When people talk about The Last of Us, they usually talk about the zombies and the action of the game. And I have never really been a huge fan of horror, so at first, when I heard the overall premise that The Last of Us is a zombie game, I wasn't immediately drawn to it. But because I love video games and often watch gameplay for the games that I play to get like hints on how to finish different objectives sometimes, I did end up getting recommended the gameplay for The Last of Us on my YouTube, and I figured, hey, it's a huge game, I might as well take a little look. And oh my god, I literally fell in love with the game in its opening scenes. I did not let myself watch any more of the gameplay than the very beginning scenes because I was so invested and I was like, I have to play this for myself. So instead, I went to my PlayStation, bought the game, which was only around $20, so yay, and I got hooked. And that's when I learned that everyone had lied to me. This is not a game about zombies. I mean, yes, on a literal sense it is, but really, The Last of Us is a story about love. Love that has been twisted by grief, infected by guilt, and hardened by survival. And no one really shows that more than the main character, Joel. In the first 20 minutes, Joel loses everything. His daughter dies in his arms, not even from the apocalypse, not from like any infected, but from a man just following orders. What Joel loses that night isn't just Sarah, it's his capacity to love without fear. And as we see, he doesn't really process that grief. He builds walls around it, and he spends the next 2 decades surviving, but not living. He doesn't have any real attachments or softness, just deals, weapons, and loss. Psychologists would call this an avoidant attachment style, the response of someone who once loved deeply, got destroyed by it, and now won't let anyone get close again. Until Ellie. At first, Joel wants nothing to do with her. She's cargo, a job, basically. But Ellie is persistent, curious, and she sort of reminds him of Sarah, but she's also nothing like her. She's a survivor, and slowly she breaks through. Their bond isn't built on joy, it's built more on shared trauma, what psychologists like to call a trauma bond, a connection forged in high-stress situations, often rooted in protection, dependency, and fear of abandonment. Joel starts to care about Ellie not just as a person, but as his person, the way he cared about Sarah. But this time, there is a sort of desperation to it. When he says, "You have no idea what loss is," I'll insert the scene here, he's not just talking to Ellie, he's remembering, and he's warning himself.
About Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
When Joel finds out Ellie will have to die to create a cure, he doesn't hesitate. He just kills everyone to save her. And here's when the game stops asking you what's right. It asks you, what would you do for someone you love? Joel's decision is fueled by more than protection. It's grief in disguise. He's already lost one daughter, and he won't lose another. But here's the truth. Joel doesn't save Ellie for her, he saves her for himself. That's what makes it so powerful, and on some level, disturbing, I guess. Love isn't always noble. Sometimes it's selfish, and sometimes it costs the world. When Ellie asks what happened, Joel lies. And not out of cruelty, but out of fear. Because telling her the truth would mean risking her hate. And Joel would rather be loved by a lie than lose her to the truth. This is protective love, corrupted by trauma. It's messy, it's human, and it really is the heart of the story. From the beginning, we understand that Joel is not a hero. He's not even a good man, but he is a father, and fathers, real or found, make impossible choices. The Last of Us shows us that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice, a sacrifice, and a reckoning. And Joel's story isn't just about how far you'll go for love, it's about who you're really willing to become. When we meet Ellie, she's already lost more people than people twice her age. She never really knew her parents. Her best friend Riley dies after their night in the mall, and she's been raised in a world where love is a liability. But she still wants to connect, and that's what makes her remarkable. In a world surrounded by death, Ellie never really shuts down. She feels, she reaches, and she makes jokes. She loves openly, even when it hurts. Psychologists would call this resilient attachment. Despite trauma, Ellie maintains the capacity for intimacy. She seeks closeness, not because she is naive, but because she refuses to become numb. And I think that's sort of what scares Joel. At first, Ellie and Joel are two broken people forced to coexist. She's too talkative for his taste, and he's too closed off for hers. But over time, something shifts. Ellie earns Joel's trust, not with force, but with compassion. Her care is persistent and human, and it's through Ellie that Joel begins to feel again. But more than that, Ellie needs Joel too, not as just a protector, but as someone who sees her, not just as the girl who might be the cure, but as Ellie. This is the essence of co-regulation and trauma recovery, two people slowly learning to feel safe around each other again, even when the world gives them every reason not to. During the winter section of the game, everything changes. Joel is near death, Ellie is alone, and she steps into the role he once held for her, as the protector. This isn't just a plot twist, it's a psychological shift. Ellie learns how brutal love can be, what it means to kill to keep someone alive, and how far she'll go to protect what little she has left. When she murders David, it's not just self-defense, it's the moment she realizes how much of herself she's really willing to lose to survive. When Joel appears again, for the first time, Ellie lets herself fall apart. This is when the father-daughter bond is sealed not through words, but through rescue, vulnerability, and shared survival. Ellie doesn't get to choose whether to sacrifice herself. The choice is stolen from her, but you can feel it. She would have. Not because she's trying to save the world, but because it would make everything she lost mean something. Psychologists like to refer to this as meaning-making in trauma, when people try to find a purpose in suffering. Ellie's love for Joel is real, but so is her pain. Because by saving her, Joel may have taken away what she thought was her only chance at peace. In part 1, Ellie is a survivor and a fighter, but most importantly, a daughter. She's a girl trying to understand what love means in a world where love gets people killed. She never asked to be the cure, she never asked to be saved, and she only really asked to be seen. The story doesn't end with Ellie and Joel finding a full resolution. It ends sort of complicated, because love isn't always about who saves you, it's about what you lose along the way. You don't really realize it at first when you're playing a game about survival. You think it's mostly about strategy, stealth, clickers, and guns. But The Last of Us isn't really trying to scare us, it's trying to change us, and it does that with love. The mechanics of love, the psychology of love, and the power of making you feel things you weren't ready to feel. by the time it ends, The Last of Us hasn't just told you a story, it's rehearsed a feeling. It's shown you how easy it is to care, how quickly love becomes a need, and how fragile morality becomes when someone you love is on the line. It makes us think back and think to something that's really hard to stomach. The part of you that would do the wrong thing for the right reason, and the part of you that knows sometimes love costs too much, and you're still willing to pay for it anyways. These are my thoughts. I absolutely love this game, and I totally understand why people love it so much now. I have played and watched the gameplay numerous times. Totally one of my favorite games. I love it so much. But yeah, let me know if you played the game, if you want me to do a similar video on different video games or The Last of Us Part 2. I would love to do that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.